Let's do this. That's the opening now. Welcome, welcome back to another episode of the Awards Bunch podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, we are going to take a look at the Best Actor and Best Actress race in the upcoming Academy Awards. I am joined again by my good friend, Mr. Benji. How are you today, man?
I'm very good, thank you, mate. Thank you very much for having me back once again. I'm glad I didn't scare you off the last time.
It was terrifying. I will say that. You know what I mean? It's the accent, though. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right, everybody, calm down. Let's calm down. I might be moving into Benji's house soon. But that being said, we did take a look last week at the supporting actor and actresses. And what we're doing with this is, as I did last month in the conversations, we're going to let you know the names that you need to be aware of, the ones that are in the conversation. And then, of course, we're going to talk about some of our favorites. And then we're also going to give our predictions. So I'm very excited to chat about these performances today because there is some really good one in both the actor and the actress race. I think they need to definitely deserve to be talked about. And then, of course, there's always those ones that we want to talk about that aren't going to be talked about during the award seasons because people don't know what the hell they're doing when they're watching TV or movies. So that being said, we're going to kick off with the best actor category, switch it up like we did from last week. Obviously, there is some big names in the conversation. Former Academy Award winner Adrian Brody, The Brutalist, the one movie that I love making a poor pun about, which is Timothy Chalamet, The Complete Unknown, because we don't know anything. It's completely unknown whether the movie is going to be good or not. You're welcome for that bad pun. And every week we talk about this movie, I'm going to say it until everybody sees it. I'm going to make Benji give me a drum roll in the back, the little drums in the background. But Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, Coleman Domingo, Sing Sing, Daniel Craig for Queer, Jesse Eisenberg, A Real Pain, Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, which is definitely one that is in the conversation, which we touched a little bit. I felt like we might be in the forefront of the conversation of having a real conversation about that film, both sides of the fence. You know what I mean? Like, understanding why it could be and couldn't be nominated. Let's see here. Could Paul Mescal be in the conversation for Gladiator 2? What about Glenn Powell? Are we just sleeping on the fact that Glenn Powell's smooth sexiness in Hitman can't be nominated? But there's definitely a lot of films in the forefront of the conversation. Let's see here. Sebastian Stan for A Different Man. We got Peter Sarsgaard for September 5th. How far can September 5th go? Does the lingering craziness behind the scenes of how people feel about the film, does that subtract away from its award potential? But when you look at this field, Benji, how do you feel about the best actor race as a collective whole?
So I think out of all of the acting categories, this one seems the most looked up on paper as of terms of like what the most people are predicting. When you will it down, how realistic is this top five actually looking? So my top four, I think, is almost everybody's top four. What I do find fascinating though is that there is that elusive number five slot. Now, at the start of last year, I'm pretty sure 80% of people had Daniel Craig at number one. Now, as the years kind of gone on and people are seeing Queer and people take issue with Queer, despite the fact his performance being pretty great, it's quite fascinating now to see him being the only one at number five where people seriously think that there could be a shift and he doesn't get nominated after all. So I'm curious to see how that goes. But then past Daniel Craig, and I've got two tattoos that are kind of related to him, so maybe I'm a bit biased, but apart from Daniel Craig, we have a few really great performances that could slip into there. The one that I'm eyeing up the most is actually Sebastian Stan, not for one, but for two movies, either The Apprentice or A Different Man. And it depends the route that the Academy want to go if he is going to get nominated. A Different Man's kind of the more raw emotional performance, a more Oscar baity one, the more where he gets more to do, more to shine. However, with The Apprentice, especially with what's going on now, they want to take a more political route, make more of like a explicit commentary and how they feel about the way that America is at the moment. I think you could get him for The Apprentice. So really, it's anybody's game as long as you're Daniel Craig or Sebastian Stan in two movies.
Exactly. And that's the interesting thing about this is when you have two movies at the forefront of the conversation, let's get it. I like the idea of Sebastian Stan. You know what I mean? Academy Award nominee. You know what I mean? I like the way it sounds. You know what I mean? It's crazy to think that, but I definitely would love to see him get nominated. Yeah, it's top heavy. Neither one of us have seen The Brutalist, so it would definitely be nice to have that conversation. But looking at the rest of the films that are really on this list, we both Brody and Chalamet. Those two are the only ones that we haven't seen between the two of us. One of us have seen one or the other films throughout this entire, of the top 10, 12, 15 names that are being talked about. I will say this, and I'm going to hit this with you too. There's two performances that are not being talked about that I definitely believe should be in the conversation. Andre Holland for Exhibiting Forgiveness. It's still one of my favorite performances of 2024. It's an incredible film. It's been in my top 4 since the Sundance Film Festival. And to be honest with you, it's crazy how my top 4 have not changed since March. I have the same top 4, and which leads to my follow-up of who my number 1 performance of the year still is, and that's Timothée Chalamet for Dune Part 2. I don't care what anybody says. I recently rewatched Dune Part 2 on the big screen, and not to flex, but it was a conversation with Nolan and Denis after. So that was pretty cool. But I was really blown away by Chalamet in that film. And this comes from a guy.
Show off.
Exactly. By the way, while you're here, you can check out clips of that on the YouTube channel. But cheap plug. But that being said, as somebody that wasn't a Chalamet fan for a long time, and wasn't really a Chalamet fan until Bones and all, he's come full circle for me. And watching him in Dune Part 2, especially after being so underwhelmed by Dune Part 1, that he blew me away. And I love the performance, and I hate that he's not in the conversation. And I think a lot of it has to do when it was released. And then, of course, you have The Complete Unknown. And then there's so many other films. And I just feel like his performance kind of stands toe-to-toe with some of these other performances, especially when, no offense to Ralph, but Conclave was very underwhelming for me. And I definitely feel like he at least should be in the conversation amongst the 10 that we are kind of talking about here. But that being said, is there somebody not on the list, maybe personal performance that you really saw in 2024 that really should be in that conversation?
I guess I'll kind of start off by saying that with Timothée Chalamet in Dune Part 2, from somebody who, I'll be honest with you, pure sci-fi movies, and it's not that I dislike them, but they're by far and away not my favorite genre. And coming from somebody who, again, was pretty underwhelmed by the first Dune, I absolutely love Dune Part 2, and it's in my top 10 favorite movies of this year so far. And I'd love to see it. However, if I'm being realistic and kind of looking at it, I don't think he has much of a shot at all for Dune Part 2 for 2 reasons. One, performances like that just don't ever really ever seem to get in. Like, even when you look at the Lord of the Rings films, they didn't have any leading actor nominations, even when the third one completely just blew up at the Oscars. The closest example I can think in recent memory was maybe Matt Damon in The Martian, but that movie was a lot more it felt a lot more realistic than Doom Part 2. It had a lot more of an emotional core. It wasn't like pure sci-fi, if that makes sense. And then he's also got A Complete Unknown coming out. And if that movie does as well as a lot of us think it may do, and he gets in the conversation for that, then then he physically can't get in for Doom Part 2 because you can't be nominated twice in the same category. So I'm I never want to say something's done because you never well and truly know if it is until Oscar nominations come out, but I think it's unlikely. In terms of leading actor, there are a few performances that I did see that I really loved that I would like to kind of mention that I don't really think have much of a shot, or at least we haven't mentioned. I don't know if you've seen it, but Andrew Garfield in We Live in Time gave probably the performance that brought me closest to tears this year.
I actually haven't seen it. No.
Yeah, so without giving too much away, because I was lucky enough to see it. I know not a lot of people have seen it yet. He's very good. It's very emotional. He has to play, this man who's got so much demons within him from a previous relationship, and then what he's going through now. and he just finds a way of making it so humanistic and kind of with his real life story about with grieving and how he's learned to deal with it. I feel like he could have a good campaign if he manages it well. Somebody else I'd like to mention, and I know you haven't seen it, but Ethan Harris in Nickel Boys. Holy fuck! What a good performance that was. That was just that should definitely be in the conversation for a nomination at least. That was a heavy, grueling performance. Like after you watch Nickel Boys for a PG-13 movie, you walk out and you just want to you just want to go for a walk for an hour just to try and just try and cope with what you've just seen because it's not an easy watch, and having to play somebody that vulnerable is just a feat in itself, and it takes so much from you, and you have to sacrifice so much of yourself to get there. So he's somebody who would love to see a part of the conversation. And I'm going to just bring this up now, and I know for a fact this would never, ever, ever, ever happen. But and I know almost nobody else has said this before, but when I look at like my favorite performances of the year, and I look at the ones that kind of impacted me the most when watching it, no performance has scared me more than David Howard Thornton in Terrifier 3.
Look, man, I ain't mad about it. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all love our stuff. You know what I mean? I'm going to sit here all day and tell you why I believe Joaquin Phoenix should be in the conversation because I love Joker. So I love Joker too. So, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm,
Yeah.
one of the few people in the entire universe that like that movie. But, you know what I mean? And I completely forgot to bring up Lady Gaga because I loved her in damn Joker. Too. So to me, it is what it is. But we all know how we feel about our love films that we'll talk about until we're blue in the face, but never get nominated because that's how the Academy works. But I mean, look back at The Whale. You know what I mean? What a dog shit movie that was. All right, Austin Butler should have been an Oscar nominee winner. Why did you like The Whale?
No, I didn't, but I know a lot of people did. So
I don't care about that. But that being said, let's talk about that top five that you're feeling confident about, and then give me that 6 through 10.
So my top five. So number one, Agent Brody for The Brutalist. Number two, it's not a personal choice, but kind of seeing where the conversation is going at the moment, I've had to put Ray Fiennes in at number two for Conclave. Number three, I've got Common Domingo for Sing Sing. Number four, Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown. Then, honestly, my number 5 to 7, it could be anybody, and I probably still feel the same. But for now, purely because he's been a part of the conversation for so long, and because he's kind of sort of kept in the conversation, I think it could happen. I'm going to put Daniel Craig in for Queer. Then my number 6 is Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. My number 7 is Sebastian Stan for A Different Man. Number 8, I've got Paul Mescal for Daniel. I'd say for Daniel. No. Number 8, I've got Paul Mescal.
Paul Mescal for Daniel Craig.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to. I'd love to, if there's ever going to be a biopic, then he's British. He sort of looks like him, so never say never. But no, Paul Mescal for Gladiator 2. Nicholas Hoult for Juror number 2, and Peter Skarsgård for September 5th.
It's so funny that there is 4 A24 films in that top 7 of yours. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, top 7, a lot of people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And I love to see it. Like A24, they give us some good shit, and they don't often get recognized enough.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting. That's where to me it's kind of scary when it comes down to the fine line of like, all right, like can all of these movies actually be in the conversation? We don't know. All right, so let's see here. Let me give you my 5. My top 4 are the same: Brody, Fine, Ralph, Timmy Boy, Coleman. My 5 is different. I really feel like we might have a real pain conversation. I feel like this could potentially be a sleeper in the Oscars conversation. I have Eisenberg right now at 5. I definitely think that supporting and screenplay are in the conversation. But that fifth slot's wide open. I still feel like, and I agree with you, that 5th slot's really wide open in that conversation. I do have Daniel Craig at number 6 for Queer there. Paul Mescal, Sebastian Stan. You can do Sebastian Stan 7 times if you want to, but I definitely think The Apprentice and A Different Man, 2 different performances, 2 great one great performance and 1 performance that's a performance. One one thing I will say, I saw Matt Neglia tweet about it, and then I also heard this and see it a lot because of what's being scheduled. But Kingsley Benadir is definitely somebody to look out for when, especially when it comes to SAG. I don't know if it'll translate into the Academy, but Bob Marley One Love is a movie that made a lot of money at the box office, and they're
It is.
pushing it big time. They're having him talk to people. He's in front of SAG actors, and I definitely feel like a SAG is probably his crowning achievement, I guess you could say. But he definitely could be in the conversation, especially he's playing an
And
iconic role. Go ahead.
And I was just thinking about it right now, and up until now, I hadn't given much thought, but I was thinking, with the amount of slots Golden Globes has across its acting categories, he could get in for there. SAG, as you mentioned, he could very much get in for there. BAFTA, he's a British boy, so I wouldn't deny that one. And then Critics' Choice, they can have up to 7, sometimes 8 slots for their acting categories. So at that point, it only leaves the Oscar nomination left. So whilst I'm not quite prepared to put him in my top 5, just kind of having this conversation with you and thinking about it realistically, it does kind of make me want to put him somewhere in my top 10, because I know not a lot of people are thinking about it, but I don't think it's out of the realms of the possibilities when you break it down.
Yeah, if you look at the numbers and you look at who's all involved, right? You know what I mean? I feel confident in saying um, Ralph and Brody are in, right? I feel like those are locks. They're locked in. I think they're locked in unless Conclave falls off a cliff.
Yeah.
But outside of that, Chalamet is a question mark. You know what I mean? It's a complete unknown on what we feel about that movie. I did it again. Uh, but no, and then I feel confident in Coleman, but I don't feel confident in Coleman. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things where I really feel like if he could be the lone nomination for the entire movie, it's quite possible, right? You know what I mean? I think that's very much in the realm of possibilities. But when you're talking about the fifth one, if you look at the forefront, if he starts getting some of those other things, I do see that Bob Marley though is in drama for the Globes though, so that's definitely interesting because if they would have tried to maybe go comedy musical, which I know it's not a musical, but you know how they do it. You know, they like to play the rather fine lines. Amelia Perez, or not Amelia Perez, Substance is going in comedy and musical, but I don't remember how many times I really laughed in Substance.
It's a
So
strange choice, to say the least.
yeah, it's a choice I think to just try to get Demi in to get nominated, which I don't know why the actress is pretty stacked, you know what I mean? So I don't know. Maybe that is the ploy. But so I think Mikey Madsen, she'd probably be comedy, right? Is that comedy?
It kind of toes the line between drama and comedy. If they were keen to get it in for nominations, I could definitely see him thinking for drama. Let me have a quick look now.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. Top drama and let's see here. Hollywood Reporter, blah, 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 blah,
A
musical
lot of
film.
people seem to be putting it. There doesn't seem to be a direct answer, but everyone seems to be putting it in comedy.
So yeah, so that to me is like kind of like a runaway almost. If
Yeah.
it goes down the path of what um it goes
You
on.
say that, but Carla Sophia Gascon for
It's drama. They're doing drama. They're submitted for drama,
they're doing
right?
drama for it. Oh, there you go. That's news to me. I didn't
I
even
think
know that.
Amelia
But
Perez
no,
did
there you go.
drama. I think I'm almost positive. I could be
That'd be a
wrong.
strange choice, because Amelia, it's not like A Star Is Born, where even though it's got music in it, it's definitely a drama. Like Amelia
Maybe I'm
Perez
wrong.
is a musical. So yeah, let's fact check ourselves right now.
We're gonna
We're meant to
fact
be the
check
experts
this.
on this.
Okay, so it did say joining the musical comedy. Okay, so it is a musical comedy, but
Yeah, there you go.
still.
And
Oh, then you have Wicked too. Shit, you know what I mean?
mhm.
Let's see here. I got a Golden Globes prediction thing here. Let me pull this up. Man, maybe we should do some Golden Globes. All right, predicting. All right, I don't care about this. Let me go down here to the. All right, so we have in musical comedy. Nora, A Real Pain isn't comedy. I mean, I get it, but let's see here. Challengers. Drama act. Here we go. Actor in comedy musical. Kinds of Kindness. What?
What the
Fuck?
fuck?
Stop it right now. You better get
I
that shit
I
out of
I
here.
I think I spent more kinds of kindness not trying to puke than laugh.
God, movie's
I mean,
so bad.
there were some funny parts in it in like an ironic way, but I definitely want to call it a musical.
I would love to see June Squibb get in for nomination for the Golden Globes. Damn it, I love Thelma.
So would I, but yeah, actually, I won't say it's impossible.
No, I definitely don't think it's impossible for sure.
Mm.
All right, so now that we fact checked ourselves here, we know what's in the world of comedy musical, and I can't help but laugh at these predictions that I read, where it says Jesse Plemons is #1 for Kinds of Kindness in the musical comedy for actor. That is the funniest thing I've ever read in my entire life.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
On that note, we're going to transition over to our actress category, where there are some heavy hitting names in the conversation. There's some names you've never heard of. There's a mixed bag of goods that I love so much. Now, we might have heard of these names in the past, but some of you might be unfamiliar with some of these people's names. But that being said, I think that the names in the conversation are from Angelina Jolie, former Academy Award winning herself. We have Carla Sofia Gascon, who is brilliant in Amelia Perez. We got Nicole Kidman, Baby Girl, Mikey Madsen, and Nora Marine Jean Baptiste, Hard Truth. We've got Cersei running for the Outrun. We've got Fernanda Torres, I'm Still Here. Amy Adams could be back in the conversation for Night Bitch. I just watched that the other night. Demi Moore, Benji's favorite movie of the year over there for Substance.
Oh yeah.
Cynthia Arova for Wicked, which again, I can't believe that we're having this conversation. If you would have told me before we filmed this podcast that we were going to have the conversation about the potential of us talking about Wicked being in the awards conversation, I would have laughed at you. But here we are. We got to do our job. We're doing our due diligence, and we're playing by the book here. And let's see here. And then, of course, Tilda Swinton, The Room Next Door, a movie that I gotta watch. I have it. I'm ready to watch it. Let's see here. Where am I at? I'm all over the map. I'm going a little crazy here. I think I hit everybody, right? Did I hit everybody?
I think you did hit everyone. I'm looking at my list now and I'm going, oh, Saoirse Ronan, The Outrun.
Yeah, I did say that one too. Yeah.
You did say
double
that
nominee potentially.
I just wasn't listening.
You hear that, guys? You hear that at home? He does not listen to me. And you know what's crazy? I feel like that's really the 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like there's a whole lot of.
There's room for movement here, there, but yeah, no, I think we're at, now that we've seen basically everything, we're at the point now where we can say like, yeah, this is probably the 10 that we're going to be looking at.
I'll tell you what, I'll kick this off with somebody that I know in a million years won't be nominated, but it's a movie that I absolutely loved and definitely think that should be in the conversation, especially for her performance in this movie, and that is Maisie Stella for My Old Ass. I love that movie, and I thought she was brilliant in that movie, and I think that movie's fantastic, and I definitely think that I'm not sitting here saying that she should win or should be in the best actress. I just think that it's not talked about enough, especially when it comes to the Golden Globes for comedy. It's such a great performance that I love dearly, but that's all I'm going to say about that. Also, another performance. You want to talk about a horror movie that won't happen in a million years, but Naomi Scott is fantastic in Smiley too.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but
complete and not a surprise that was for me.
I thought the first one was okay. At best. I was not even looking forward to seeing this movie. And her performance is fantastic. You know what I mean? If I made my list right now, not having I haven't seen Hard Truth, and I haven't seen Baby Girl either. But if I'm making my personal 5, I don't see a world where I can leave out Naomi Scott on my list. I'm sorry, there's not. And one other person I want to talk about before I let you talk about some of your own performances there. Kaylee Spaney, Civil War. I will beat the drum of Civil War until I'm dead because I love that movie so much. That's still my number 3 movie of 2024. I know a lot of people hate it, and even more so now, but I love Civil War. I think it's a great movie. Benji, who's not amongst this 10? And you would if you had a personal ballot, who are you throwing on there?
So I guess in terms of personal ballots, to be fair, a lot are on there. The only one that I was kind of looking at and I was thinking this name hasn't really been mentioned at all. It's again the co-lead of We Live in Time, and it's Florence Pugh. So for very similar reasons to Andrew Garfield, that kind of character in this very sweet and romantic film, she's also struggling her demons of what's going on in life. And I always admire performances that just feel so real. And when I say that, I don't mean in terms of the way they perform, but when you watch a movie and you feel like you've almost lived that life. You feel like you know those people, you know what they're talking about, you know where their head's at, you know the type of things they're going to say, and to be very real in a movie, and to just not only act well, but to be so present in a movie is a really difficult thing to do. And I feel like her and Garfield just knock out of the park in terms of their performances. So that's something I'd love to see more talk about in the grand scheme of things. I do feel like it'll probably just come and go. It may pick up like actor BAFTA or Golden Globe here there when it comes to the actual Oscars. I don't think there's much conversation to be had, but that's something that I'd like to see. She is in our top 10, but probably my second favorite performance of the actresses of this year, Fernando Torres for I'm Still Here, is just like one of my I love that movie, and even though it has sort of been a part of the conversation, I think it's still criminally underrated. It is probably my third favorite movie this year so far. I just the way that it's slow burn without being boring, and how invested you get into this family, and how ironically happy you are for that character by the end of it when she finds out the truth of what's happened, even though in the grand scheme of things, it's a novel thing. And the way it kind of commentates to kind of what's going on today with dictatorships around the world and the fears that we have in a lot of countries, especially with recent news, it all felt very at home and perfectly timed. So that's a performance that I'd love to definitely see make it in the top five at the end of the day, even though I think it's very 50-50. And then, yeah, so in terms of kind of my favorite performances of the year, they're probably my two favorites, except from, I know we've spoken about it, I'm going to speak about it again, Demi Moore and The Substance, who I think at the time I didn't think so, but now that we're in a different position, I think she could get in at the end of the day.
I don't know. I don't know. It's a uphill battle. I think it's an uphill battle, but I don't disagree. I definitely think that I don't think the outrun is as good as her. Ronan's performance is really good, and I do think that her performance is good. I just don't think the movie as an overall is really good. And do they really put her into a double nominee? Not saying they wouldn't. They've done it before, but maybe it's like, hey, let's throw Demi in here instead of Ron, and she's been in here multiple times in the past. This is how many chances are we going to get a chance to put Demi Moore at the forefront of the conversation? I'm not mad about it. I would love to see Demi Moore this in this stage of her life be put on that forefront, that pedestal, and be nominated. But I just don't know. I don't know. But all right, let's go 1 through 5. I'll go first. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go first this time. Why not go first? You know what I mean?
Star up a little bit.
Let's go. All right. I have Mikey Madsen and Aura as the number one, which is probably like a collective overall. Angelina Jolie for Maria, who I thought was magnificent in Maria. Number 3, Carla Sofia Gascon, Amelia Perez. Banger of a performance. Golly. Marianne Jean Baptiste, Hard Truth at 4. I think that's 4. Speaking of Ronan, I do have her in at 5. Everything against what I said earlier, I still have her at number 5. And then 6 through 10, we're looking at Nicole Kidman, Baby Girl. Just recently thrown in here just because of the conversation, and I hope that I'm wrong in 2 weeks that we can take this conversation out. I got Cynthia in there for Wicked. Amy Adams is a staple of the Academy. You have to put her in there, whether Night Bitch is going to be strong or not. Demi Moore for The Substance, and Torres for I'm Still Here. That's my top 10. What about you, Mr. Benji?
So I'm the only person out there at the moment who I know who hasn't gone with Mikey Madison at my number one. I really think Carla Sofia Gascon has a hell of a trajectory to win Best Actress. With everything that's going on in the world right now, and with how good her performance is, and the story that she has to tell, and the narrative she has, I really, really, really think that is possible. And I think people are being a little bit silly to kind of undermine her. when she has so much going for her. Like the movie is called Amelia Perez, and she is the lead in Amelia Perez in one of the top 4 or 5 Oscar movies that most people are predicting at the moment. So I am not under. So I'm kind of, to be honest, I'm picking her at number one more than anything else as a pride thing, because I think there is a possibility that she could not only get nominated but win. So I kind of want to be the first person to call it because I have that inkling. Then at number 2, I do have Mikey Madison for Honora, which I know you haven't seen it yet, but despite the fact I think I don't love Honora anywhere near as much as most people do, I still definitely think it's a deserved nomination. Number 3, Angelina Jolie for Maria. Number 4, Saoirse Ronan for The Outrun. Even though it's a pretty poor movie, I still think she has a good chance to get nominated. This happens all the time with great performances that just kind of get nominated for the one movie, for the one performance, or what they. I've completely messed up what I was going to say there. Movies that aren't so great that still get that one nomination just because of how good the performance is. Look at Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway. He was in a good movie, but he gave a great performance. Then my number 5, I'm going a little bit risky, but this is what award season's all about. We have Demi Moore and A Substance, which I think as the days go on and I see people being knocked out of their top 5s, I think she has a really good chance to get in. Then my
Yeah.
number 6.
And then, just to piggyback off that real quick, though, that and then the box office numbers have been very helpful for it, too.
Really helpful for the type of movie that it is, for a movie that, R-rated, extremely violent, and kind of got, maybe not for everybody. The fact it's been able to do that well, I think, is really impressive, and it just goes to show on the way that it transcends. Also, that audience score was really good. I mean, what was it, like a B plus by the end of the day? So you can't undermine that. Well, so I'm looking out for her. Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here, which is probably where I'd like her to be in my top 5. But then when I whittle it down, I just can't fit her in. But if Ronan, Moore, or Jolie drop out, then she's definitely kind of there to take their place. Marion Jean Baptiste and Hard Truths. Amy Adams and Night Bitch, which I did in my top 5, but then when the initial reactions came out and it was pretty mixed, I struggled with keeping her there. Nicole Kidman for Baby Goat, number 9, and then number 10, I've got Tilda Swinton for The Room Next Door.
Yeah, it's pretty. When you look across the board at multiple people's picks, it's kind of like you have the same, at least 8 or 9 people, maybe you intertwine 9 and 10. You know what I mean? It seems like there's a pretty set a group of ladies that we can expect to continuously talk about over the next, 2 months or so. It is, you know what I mean? Especially whenever everything starts to take form, whenever it comes, when it comes to the nominations coming out over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, that is it for our lead actor and actress performances. Benji, thank you so much again for joining me. We're going to be back again very soon to talk about the best picture category, which it's probably one of the craziest it's been in a while. I'm glad we don't really have a quote unquote front runner, even though I know a lot of people are pushing the narrative that there is a front runner here or there. But for me, I still think that the race is wide open, not wide open, whatever. But that's a lot of words for me on this podcast. Benji, thank you for joining me, man. We'll be back soon.
Thanks very much.